So the problems that real-time payments are solving, I would say, do vary from market to market. There's a huge amount of use cases. To not keep drumming on about the UK, but a good example where the need for instant payments in that market was incredibly there. The other alternatives, either an expensive wire or a BACS with a 3-day settlement cycle, that use case was there. And in comparison to SEPA Instant, I think somewhat of the slower uptake for that rail is because they do have a same-day CT ACH offering. And so unless you need that true instant payment with instant feedback, you know that your beneficiaries receive that money, same-day CT, probably okay for you. And then as we get into the use cases that where the opportunity is for RTP, and that is the problems they're solving, definitely 24/7. That's a key unique feature when the other clearings and the central banks and have all gone to sleep for the evening and for the weekends. These rails are still going and enabling the opportunity to keep money moving, because businesses aren't 9 to 5 anymore. They're not just weekdays. Business, the world keeps moving, and supply chains keep moving, and therefore money needs to keep moving. And I think as we know, a lot of the change is driven by the individual. And the individual now has a 24/7 expectation. I want to be able to move my money at all times. Same way I want to be able to order from Amazon or any other provider and get supplies either same day or the next day. Speed and instant feedback is just what we know and expect now. And that is just moving more and more into the payment space, and obviously very focused in the individual world, but the corporate and the business space has started to have and does have that expectation too. And then I'll just say, in addition to the, very obvious 24/7 nature problem solving, going back to what are particular use cases, the one that gets talked about a lot, I think it is just a really key use case, is where the business has an underlying need for instant, such as the gig economy businesses, the taxi driving apps, the food delivering apps. Those workers want to have the ability to do a job and immediately get money. They don't want to have to wait for the traditional old school month-end salary. They want to get paid as soon as they've done a job. And this opens up that ability and has created a whole new workforce where instant payments is part of that underlying infrastructure.
Yeah, the consumer doesn't rest, do they? So I think that's one of the biggest drivers that have made real-time payments something that we need. But if you look at some of the different regions across the globe again, Asia, one of the biggest reasons that we launched real-time payments is because of financial inclusion. So India is a good example. The UPI rails through open banking account-to-account payments really drove financial inclusion in the region. Similarly, in Singapore and Malaysia, as I mentioned earlier. And then Latin America has a very similar objective when they launch real-time payments. So financial inclusion is one of the kind of big themes that enables real-time payments. And then, Connie, you spoke about cross-border payments before as well. One of the biggest reasons that we want to establish critical national infrastructure that enables real-time payments is to achieve that interoperability across different nations. We know a number of nations are talking about this at the moment. UK, as they build out their next set of fast payments rails, are having conversations around interoperability. Canada has been doing that for a while now. So once MPP is live, they will be looking at interoperability with other regions like Australia. And then Australia has been talking to Europe and other nations about interoperability as well. So there's a lot going on in terms of achieving interoperability for cross-border payments. And the reason for that is, if you look at the correspondent banking network today, there's a lot of inefficiencies in that network. So there's a lot of cost involved, not a lot of transparency in that network, and it's quite slow. So I think there's a lot we can achieve by having interoperability between that. And then thirdly, I think if you look at some of the advancements that we're seeing purely around payment platforms, so we can see B2B platforms becoming quite prevalent in the market. Things like embedded finance and embedded payments becoming kind of fundamental in the ecosystem that we drive across the globe. So real-time payments need to be that kind of microservice that drives all of the kind of supply and demand within those ecosystems.